It's hard to call second-round draft picks steals, but Alontae Taylor, New Orleans Saints rookie corner, is about as close as it gets. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much as always. Make it Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget we're free and available on all podcast apps and on YouTube as well. Now I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, your New Orleans Saints expert credential member of the media, CrescentCitySports.com, USA Today Saints Wire, Tuesdays a Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. It's a mobile game I am absolutely obsessed with. If you want to download it, make sure you check it out. Just visit ultimate-gm.com. Then you can look it up in the app stores as well. Our listeners will get a 100% free boost to their franchise by simply using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. I'll tell you more about them later. On today's episode, Alvin Kamara needs more opportunities in the outside run. We'll break down the numbers, where it's been in previous seasons, where it is now, and why it's not okay. We'll take a look at not enough screen calls going on for the New Orleans Saints either. The Saints, bottom of the NFL in screen calls. Why should you be surprised by that? We'll look at that. But first, Alontae Taylor was absolutely a steal or a sleeper, whatever word you want to use in reference to how good Alontae Taylor is versus his draft position. Use that word. And I know, he's a second round draft pick. So it's hard sometimes to call a second round draft pick a steal. But if you consider and you think about what the New Orleans Saints have done time and time again, they have nailed second round draft picks. Marcus Williams. You look at Pete Werner here from just a year ago. Alontae Taylor now a part of that. Michael Thomas, of course, a part of that, and others. This is what the New Orleans Saints have done so well. It's one of the reasons why you don't see me really stressed out about the fact that they might not have a first round pick in 2023. Although if the Arizona Cardinals keep trending the way that they are, then maybe that will happen, especially because there's some reports out there, or some whispers out there, that teams are looking for not only Sean Payton, but a potential GM. Guess who just got a GM opening, or is about to have a GM opening? Arizona. So with that, it's easy to look at where Alontae Taylor has gone right, huh? He was top 5, top 3 in many important metrics, including passer rating, completion percentage allowed, yards allowed, even yards per catch allowed. He was in the upper half of corners that took over 200 quarterback snaps. In fact, he was actually in the upper third of that category. So you see all the places that he's been playing right and that he's been doing well, and it was only backed up even further by an absolutely dominant performance against the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that there were a lot of people who were going to say things about like passes being off target because Desmond Ridder was a rookie quarterback, is a rookie quarterback, all that. That's fine. And certainly there are examples of those. There was the first play of the game. He was a little bit off target, but he went after Alontae Taylor. But you still have to make those plays nonetheless. And you can see Alontae Taylor consistently in good position, consistently being able to make plays at the catch point, consistently being aggressive enough to come up and make plays and break up passes and force incompletions. That is such a key statistic, not just pass breakups, but forced incompletions. He had 4, even though he was targeted 9 times in this game. So a 44% forced incompletion percentage. That is outstanding. You look across the entire NFL, in the week 15, except for, of course, the Monday night football game between the Rams and Packers, which hadn't been played yet. But out of all of the corners across the NFL in week 15, the 5th highest coverage grade across the entire NFL. And you know what? One of his teammates was top 2, Justin Evans. Justin Evans played more limited snaps, but played extremely well. Also had the punch out as well that created the turnover in favor of the New Orleans Saints. But an 86.7% coverage grade by Pro Football Focus. Don't care about like what stock you put in Pro Football Focus numbers and everything like that. It's just about looking at kind of like where he is and who are the names that he's amongst. Then you look at the raw information here, right? 9 targets, only 3 catches allowed. That's a 33% completion percentage, just 23 yards allowed as well. I'll do some quick calculator math on that one, but pretty good when you're talking about an average there of only 7.6 yards. The longest reception he allowed was only 9 yards. That was it. He had 4 forcing completions, like we talked about, 3 pass breakups, and a 42.4 passer rating when targeted in this game. He was absolutely a lockdown corner, and he has done this all season. And maybe people are waiting to see if it's going to be consistent or whatever before they start talking about him, but people are not talking about him enough. He should be up there in the conversations with Sauce Gardner and Tariq Woolen for best rookie corner in the NFL this season. He is that good. He is that good. And in fact, he is so good that it's going to be remarkably hard for the New Orleans Saints to keep him off the field when Marshon Lattimore either returns this season or is ready to begin next season in 2023. It's going to be super hard to keep Alontae Taylor off of the field. He brings a ton of energy. He's an absolute spark plug for the defense. He's great in pass coverage, which is exactly what you want from him. He's a fantastic man corner despite his size. Remember, he's actually a smaller cornerback, quote unquote smaller, right? Bigger than me, bigger than most of us, but smaller cornerback. And he has been able to man up against some of the best corners around the NFL. The Saints don't do a lot of fancy stuff on defense. They play man defense with their corners. They ask you to man up, get in somebody's face, put your hands on somebody and affect them at the line of scrimmage and affect them at the catch point. And that's exactly what Alontae Taylor does. And oh, by the way, he's also great in run support. He could clean up some of the missed tackles, but that's gotten better so far over the course of the season. If I just wanted to nitpick, but I don't really want to nitpick here. I want to make a big grandiose statement like I've been making this entire conversation so far, which is that we should be talking about Alontae Taylor a lot more. And I'm sorry, when I say we, I don't just mean Saints fans, Saints media. We're all talking about Alontae Taylor. But nationally, he should be recognized a bit more, and he should be in that conversation along with those guys like that we mentioned before, Tariq Woolen over in Seattle. And then, of course, Sauce Gardner, who is without question the best rookie corner and will probably win Offensive Rookie of the Year this year over with the New York Jets, and deservedly so because he's been outstanding. But what Alontae Taylor has done so far this season should not be looked over, should not be passed over, should not be ignored. And so I'm saying it. I'm saying it as many different ways as I can, as loudly as I can, and in many different places as I can, because this kid has been absolutely outstanding so far this season. And the crazy thing, the fact of the matter, is that like he's only gonna get better from here. I mean, quiet as it's kept, this guy is already one of the best corners in the NFL or rookie corners in the NFL this season. But now you get another training camp under his belt. Remember, he missed time in training camp this season. You get another training camp under his belt, you get him ready for the 2023 season, and he's only set to get better from here. And that is super, super exciting because he has been awesome to watch. What has not been awesome to watch is the New Orleans Saints not utilizing a lot of screen passes. In fact, they are bottom of the NFL in screen passes attempted. What goes into that and why is it so concerning? We'll break that down as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. And today's episode is brought to you by some new friends of ours over at Ultimate Football GM. This is a mobile game that I am absolutely addicted to right now. Absolutely love it. So if you ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM or managing your own football franchise, that dream can now come true. And this game is definitely for you. So listen up. You want to do things like hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, of course, navigating your franchise, navigating the salary cap, all that good stuff. Ultimate Football GM has all of it for you. They tried to create a very realistic world here for you to be able to take advantage of. Completely free and playable offline. You don't have to pay at all. You can play on the go. And of course, at any time that you want to, and as much as you want to as well. You can even go at your own pace. There's none of this like, oh, you have to wait this long, like timeouts and stuff like that. You have to wait this long before you can do this thing again. Nothing like that. You can keep grinding and grinding and grinding. So to add to what you've got here with the Ultimate Football GM, there's some others too. I'm going to tell you about our promo code. So Locked On Saints listeners are going to get a 100% free boost to their franchise when you enter the promo code Locked On, all caps. Make sure you do it in all caps at the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. Make sure that you check it out today. You can download the game by visiting ultimate-gm.com, or you can just look it up in the app stores as well. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. And today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car that you want wherever you want it from a community of local hosts. You don't have to stand in line in a rental car place and all this other stuff. No, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can do it all through Turo.com. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion, whether you're looking for it in the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia also covered as well. So maybe you're looking for a spacious minivan or SUV for a family road trip, or maybe you want a luxury car for a holiday or a special occasion, or maybe you're just looking for an economy car to help you get from point A to point B. They've got all of that for you, and many Turo hosts will even deliver the car right to you as well. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars. Find your drive at Turo.com. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. The New Orleans Saints not running a lot of screen passes this season. Have you noticed? Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Of course you have, because it has been a staple of the New Orleans Saints offense for years and years and years, and now all of a sudden, not really present. I asked Dennis Allen about it today. Interesting comment on why that is the case. What does it all mean? We're going to break that down here as we continue on with today's Locked On Saints. Appreciate you as always making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, Locked On Sports today, already waiting for you, giving you the local insight on all of the biggest stories around the NFL and the world of sports. So the New Orleans Saints so far this season, 26 screen passes attempted. That is at the bottom of the NFL. And that was going into the Week 15 game against the Atlanta Falcons, by the way, in which they did not throw another screen pass. If your definition of a screen pass is a quick pass to the outside that includes a screen of blockers in front of the pass catcher, then the throw to the outside to Adam Prentice in the flats was just a quick pass to a guy in the flats on a delayed release, not a screen pass. So they couldn't get up to 27. They stayed at 26 in this one. They are at the bottom of the NFL in screen passes. Right above them, the Dallas Cowboys had 28 going into their wild finish and loss against Jacksonville. Miami wasn't far off at 30, and you had a bunch of teams at 32 as well before Week 15. So the Saints not improving in that number, so you know they're at the bottom there still. 26 screen passes. So why is this so, well, why is it so surprising? We'll get to, but why is this happening? So I asked Dennis Allen about it, and I basically presented it as such. Not utilizing screen passes in the frequency that we've seen in the past, was there a concerted effort to move away from the screen passes, or is it just about kind of game flow and opportunity? Dennis Allen very clearly saying that there was no decision made to not throw screen passes, which we all know is the case, right? Like, teams aren't going to go in and say, okay, we're not doing this in our offense anymore. We're not allowed to do that. But, sometimes you have to ask questions that make you look a little dumb so that you can get the answer that you're looking for. And basically the way that he explained it was the opportunities haven't been there. It's been a little bit about what it is that the game has allowed, right? The games that they played, what's allowed there. So what that means is that the Saints have specific sort of, what's the word that I want to use here? They kind of have these specific like prerequisites, or they have a rubric almost in terms of when screen passes are a good choice for the offense, basically. So that's what that would mean, is that they have, maybe it's a down and distance thing, maybe it's a play style thing from the other side. Maybe, this team is aggressive in their blitzing, so we're going to throw a screen pass to the side that we think the blitz is coming from, catch them off guard, and get the ball carrier down the field, right? So whatever it is, they have some type of metric that they look at and say, okay, a screen pass is available to us in this game situation, this down and distance, this field position, whatever it is, or whatever it is that they have or haven't seen from the opposing defense. Clearly, that definition either needs to be expanded a little bit more, or You just have to accept it as a part of your identity. Let's talk about the opposite side of this. And that's at the very top. Who utilizes screen passes the most? Teams like the Los Angeles Rams, the Green Bay Packers, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They use a lot of screen passes. Los Angeles, of course, has been that's a part of Sean McVay's entire identity. It's a part of the Shanahan tree and the McVay tree, so it's not surprising at all to see it from Matt LaFleur as well in Green Bay. Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, the air raid system, the kind of spread offense. That's a big part of the spread offense and their identity. Jacksonville gets Doug Peterson, so they go to a little bit more of a spread offense. It's a part of their identity as well. New England Patriots pretty far up this list as well. Mac Jones can't throw downfield, so obviously you're going to run a lot of screen passes that way. So with all of that, it's a part of the identity of the teams at the top. It's not a part of the identity of the teams that are at the bottom. And so even if you're in a situation to where you're saying like, oh, we haven't really seen the opportunities where a screen pass makes sense. If it's a part of your identity, then every opportunity, it makes sense, right? Like if it's just a part of what you do, like some of these teams are running 6 screen passes per game. The New Orleans Saints, not even scratching 2 per game on average, 26 over 14 games. So they're not even scratching 2 per game at this point. So with that being the case, how much do you really believe then that the screen pass is a part of your identity if you're still not running it and everything? If your definition of when to run it is so finite that it's not really a part of your identity. So no, there wasn't a concerted effort to not run them, but there's certainly not a concerted effort to run them either. So somewhere the Saints fall in between on that spectrum, and whatever their qualifications are for running or their requirements are for running a screen pass doesn't often present itself in these games. You look at the Los Angeles Rams, who also have been playing from behind, who have been playing with deficits, who have been playing against teams that you're outscoring them and they're putting them and the Rams in some games not running a lot of plays. They've run the most screen passes in the NFL. So, where the definition really is here is obviously going to vary depending upon scheme, but clearly the scheme has a specific list or rubric or metrics or whatever it is they're looking for to check those boxes for the screen pass. Why is this important? The other reason why this is important is because this is kind of a missed opportunity, right? You've got Alvin Kamara, who's one of the best screen running backs in the NFL. You have this uber mobile offensive line, including guys like Ryan Ramczyk, but also mobile players like Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy and Andrus Peat, who last year, along with Teron Armstead, built what was the fastest offensive line, or one of the 3 fastest offensive lines in the NFL based on their 40 times entering the NFL, right? So you have this very mobile, this offensive line that can get downfield. I mean, we see this all the time with Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz and Andrus Peat. You have dynamic playmakers, not only like Alvin Kamara, but now also Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson showing you what he can do after the catch. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities here to utilize these screen passes a little bit more with the talent that's on the roster. So why is it important? It feels like a missed opportunity for the New Orleans Saints to find additional ways to do, just like we talked about in the last episode, the Monday episode, in recapping their win against the Atlanta Falcons, to run the offense through their playmakers, get the ball in the hands of those playmakers and see what they're able to do with it. The screen passes would allot them opportunities to do that. Another thing that would allot them opportunities to do that, particularly with Alvin Kamara, is calling some more outside runs. The Saints, surprisingly condensed in their run game so far this season. You've noticed it because you've watched the games, but now let's put the numbers behind it. That's what we're going to get to as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Daily Fantasy made the way that it should be. Honestly, like this is what Daily Fantasy should have been all along. You're not playing against a bunch of mystery lineups, trying to win a mystery percentage of a mystery pot or anything like that. It's you and your knowledge of the game, your favorite players, your favorite sport, the matchups they're going up against, all of that against the house. Nice and simple. And that goes to the NFL, but also NBA, MLB, NHL. They've got golf, they've got disc golf, they've got a pickleball, they've got a bunch of stuff, including esports as well. So much that you can get in on. There's so much fun to be had over at prizepicks.com today. And to help you out, let me tell you how it works. You pick 2 to 5 players. You choose whether or not they're going to come in at more or less the Prize Picks projection. You get that right, you can win up to 10 times your entry. There you go. It's that simple. Yeah, It's that easy. So you want to check them out. First-time users are going to be able to get a 100% instant deposit match by simply entering the promo code Locked On over on the Prize Picks app or at prizepicks.com today. So make sure you use that promo code Locked On. It's going to get you that 100% instant deposit match of up to $100. Deposit $100, they'll match $100. Deposit $50, they'll match $50. But you can only get it by using the promo code Locked On over at prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app today. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints with some nerdy numbers. That's what we're going to go through today. Some nerdy numbers. I got a bunch of percentages. I got a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to overdo this at all. I mean, I'm already overdoing it. I'm overdoing it with my personality, which is kind of what my personality does anyway. But I'm not going to overdo it with the numbers here. But there are some percentages that we're going to talk through here because I want to compare the New Orleans Saints of 2017 through 2021, their outside run percentage with Alvin Kamara versus 2022. That's what we're going to be looking at because the takeaway for you here is that the New Orleans Saints are not running nearly enough to the outside with Alvin Kamara. They're forcing him inside between the tackles way more, or really at a higher percentage, a considerably higher percentage than we have seen before, with one exception, and it was 2021. Now remember, 2021, 58 different starters, 4 different quarterbacks. There's a lot of different things that were going on with that team that forced sort of what it was they're doing, including injuries at the running back position, which could also be a factor this year. The Saints have never really had a consistent presence to take those inside runs away from Alvin Kamara. Remember, Alvin Kamara used to be the change of pace back. That was the title for him back when he was rushing for 6.1 yards per carry, 4.7 yards per carry in 2019, 5 yards per carry even in 2020. He was the change of pace guy. They had Latavius Murray. They had Mark Ingram. Over the course of the past couple of years, they have never really consistently found that partner running back that can take some of those runs up the middle. So they've been having to do them with Alvin Kamara, and that has been a detriment to his game. 3.7 yards per carry last year, only 3.8 so far this year. Let me make sure I actually have the updated number for that. But either way, Alvin Kamara not really being 3.9 now. Sorry, with the week 15 numbers. So either way, though, Alvin Kamara not necessarily being able to be the runner that we expect to see on the field. And here's a good portion of why. Between 2007 and 2021, the New Orleans Saints ran Alvin Kamara between the tackles 51.9% of the time. Not surprising, right? There's more areas to run in between the tackles than there are areas to run to either side of the tackles, or just as many, if you will, because you can go outside the tackle, but you can also go outside the tight end in some cases, and then there's jet sweeps that I characterize differently from here. But in any case, in gathering up outside runs to the right, 25.2%, outside runs to the left, 21.5%. So basically what you saw effectively here, to just boil it down, half of his runs went up the middle, a quarter of his runs went around one end, a quarter of his runs went around the other end. That's what we effectively saw from 2017 to 2021, bending the percentages a little bit, but that's basically half of the middle or between the tackles, about a quarter one side, quarter the other side. Here's what the New Orleans Saints have looked like in terms of their run distribution for Alvin Kamara in terms of direction this season. 58.5% between the tackles, 18% to the outside on the right side, 16.5% to the outside on the left side. That's considerable in terms of the drop. That's over 5%. That's an over 5% share drop on the left side. That is nearly a 10% drop over to the right side, and it is an 8% increase in between the tackles. So if you've been watching the New Orleans Saints football games over the course of the 2022 season and said, man, they've been running Alvin Kamara between the tackles a ton, you're absolutely right. And it is more than you're accustomed to seeing, which is one of the reasons why it stands out. 90 plus runs right up the middle out of 164, 27 to the left, 31 to the right. That's a pretty big share. I mean, threefold effectively up the middle and in between. Now remember that includes like inside the left tackle, inside the left guard, inside the right guard, inside the right tackle. So about 4 zones there versus outside to the left, outside to the right. So inherently you're going to see a greater portion, and the NFL run game still operates between the tackles, right? So inherently you're going to see a greater portion of runs coming in between. But the biggest thing for me is the percentage drop off in terms of his distribution to the outside on either side as opposed to previous seasons. Now, we saw Alvin Kamara get his first jet sweep of the season against the Atlanta Falcons. That was the first one. That was a big gain that went over to the right side. And we also saw a couple of other runs to the outside. I think it was a total of, let me see if I can remember this off the top of my head. It was a total of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nope, 3, 5, 6. Total of 6 different runs that went to the outside on the right side. 0 to the left side, though. 0 to the left side. So they like running those towards, and that's not completely out of the ordinary, by the way. In almost every season of his career, in terms of outside runs to either side, including in 2018 when he ran 66 times to the right side, it's always been more to the right side than to the left side, with the exception of the 2020 season, where the split was 47 to the left, 38 to the right. But it is uncanny, and it's kind of like the screen pass thing, right? It's like the lack of creativity means, or not creativity, but the lack of diversity in terms of the distribution, which could be linked to creativity. I'm just using one of Dennis Allen's words. Is also a missed opportunity. Just like the screen pass, just like the screen passes, you have great players that you could be utilizing that are athletic, that could do a lot of things with the ball in their hands that you're not utilizing because you're not utilizing the screen pass at all. And you're running less than 2 per game while other teams are running nearly 7 per game. And just like that, over on the outside, you're running what? Not even 2 runs to the outside left per game so far this season, and just over 2 per game to the outside right this season. Now, bear in mind, Alvin Kamara has played fewer games than the New Orleans Saints. He's been out for 2 games, so those percentages actually, or that ratio actually is a little bit different. But still, like, you just don't see it as often as you would imagine. Like the fact that we're even like tweaking the numbers to make 2 times per game work is just nuts. It's nuts. Like usually you would expect to see, and I posted that graphic from all of the all the next gen stats kind of looks at the run charts from the most successful games against the Atlanta Falcons in 2019, 20, 21, 22. It's easy to see it. It's easy to see it. You're talking about 6, 7, 8 runs to the outside in most of those games. And we're talking about 2, maybe 2.5 per game on average. It's not enough. And so it'll be interesting. Dennis Allen did say that they are still trying to find more ways to creatively utilize him and get him out in space. Screen passes, definitely one of them. Running toward the outside, definitely another one of them. I don't think those things are super creative, so I'm probably boiling this down a little bit too much. But hey, sometimes the best answer is a simple answer, which is get the dude in space. Get the dude in space. And there are ways to do that the Saints just really haven't leaned on so far this year. So waiting to see if maybe it's a part of their identity here late in the season. They started taking steps in the right direction. And I kind of highlighted this in one of the YouTube comments. They took steps in the right direction against the Atlanta Falcons, but going from minus 100 to minus 75, while it's steps in the right direction to plus 100, you still got a ways to go. So I think the New Orleans Saints have a couple of games left in the season. We'll see if they're able to do that. So we'll be paying attention to outside runs, screen passes, and of course, Alontae Taylor throughout the end of the season. I appreciate you, as always, for coming through for another episode of Locked On Saints, making us your first listen of the day. Coming up later on today, on Tuesday, we'll also get you our mock draft as well, to where we're breaking down what the New Orleans Saints could do. This time I expanded it to the first 3 rounds, so we'll get a look at what they could do in the first round if they got the Arizona Cardinals picks, what other picks they might be able to get in that trade if they do end up shipping Sean Payton over to Arizona. Arizona seems like a likely competitor at the moment, so we'll kind of focus in on that. But also, what else can the Saints do at 2 and 3, in rounds 2 and 3? And more specifically, can they get an effective running back to help complement Alvin Kamara so that I can stop doing all this math and all these numbers next season? So we'll be breaking all that down on our next episode of Locked On Saints. In the meanwhile, for your second listen today, make sure you're going to check out Locked On Sports today. All the news you need around the world of sports in less than 20 to 25 minutes, with all of our local experts bringing you beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes. The Locked On Sports Today podcast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Appreciate you, as always, making me part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. As always, if you see me, say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.